Hello, Kennedale. Jeff Navarro's Kennedale News, and boy, do I have a good one for you this year. For the first time in 3 years, we have a contested race for the Kennedale ISD Trustees, place seven. Good morning, ladies. How you doing?
Fine, thank you.
Good
Good,
morning, Jeff.
good morning. Thanks for choosing such an early time on Saturday. I appreciate you both, but I'm happy to be here to get y'all's questions out and your information out to your constituents. So we'll get started so everybody understands at home if you haven't watched the previous films of the coffee chats. We have all agreed to this format beforehand. All the participants here know each other's questions. They each came up with three questions and shared them with each other. I came up with the seventh, and so we're all prepared and we're ready to go. We'll start off with the incumbent, Miss Felicia Moody. Why don't you give us a quick intro?
Good morning. My name is Felicia Moody. I am your incumbent for Kennedale ISD Place 7. I'm seeking re-election to continue to be your voice as a parent, as an educator, and as a community member. I have a passion for public education. I believe in our students and in the Kennedale ISD community, and I welcome the opportunity to share my ideas with my opponent.
Excellent. And Trustee Maria Cruz?
Good morning, Jeff, and the rest of the people that are going to be seeing this later on. You may have seen the signs, you might have heard the name, you've seen my picture around, but more than just a candidate, I'm a Wildcat mom. My family and I have been calling Kennedale home since 2017 when we first got here. And even though we once considered back in 2025 that we were going to move out of district, we decided to stay because our two boys who are currently in the junior high, been in the system since pre-K, they told us that they felt safe and heard and taken care of right here. So even though it cost us money, we chose to stay because we can proudly call Kennedale home now. And I'm back. I'm back to ensure that every student feels the same support that my children feel. Personally, I'm a Spanish and English translator and a professional court interpreter. My career is built on being very precise and neutral and expert listening. I've served as a school board trustee from 22 to 25, and I was also a past president for the Delaney PTO. So I have no learning curve experience I have no learning curve experience that the district needs. And I'm a bridge builder. I believe in KISD at its best with the team of eight when it works together.
Excellent. Well, good morning to you both. And this is going to be a great conversation. I already know because both of you are trustees, so you both know intimately what's been going on, been a part of that conversation. So it's not like somebody brand new coming in who doesn't quite know the nuances of things that have been going on. So this is going to be good, exciting. We'll just go ahead and start right now. The first question is Felicia's to Maria's, and this question is: School board trustees are presented with the information and required to make difficult decisions for the betterment of all stakeholders. What is the one dissenting vote you cast that you knew would make you unpopular, but believed it was a correct vote for students? Maria?
So my dissension votes have never been about being the lone voice of opposition or being difficult. They've been about advocating for a fair and equitable process for anybody that's involved. I could say specifically when we addressed contract renewals at one point, I voted against it to ensure that our procedures were very consistent, transparent, and were held to the higher standard of fairness for our employees and the taxpayers. When it comes to budget, it doesn't matter how many years of experience you have. If you haven't read the board book with the budget and read the budget line by line and the tax rate in it, there's no way you can make a truly informed decision. This is many, many pages that you have to read through, and we are given this information beforehand. So, for example, I can cite back from August 26, 2025 meeting. It was a budget and tax rate session when the record shows that the board book was not opened by the incumbent until 6:06, the pretty much exact hour that the meeting was scheduled to start. So I will ensure fairness and fiscal integrity by doing the research that is needed before a board meeting to make sure that every dollar that we vote on goes into the right place. I will never be casting a vote on our community's tax dollars unless I have fully analyzed the numbers myself to ensure we are being both fair to our staff and being responsible to the taxpayers in our district.
Well, good morning, Felicia.
Well, there have been a few of dissenting votes that I have cast that I knew would put me in a negative light in the public, but student achievement and the opportunities for students to be in the best successful light is always going to be at the forefront for me. I'm a school board trustee because I believe in students. So I know it's a question that's going to come up. It's come up as I've been campaigning, and that was the 4-day work week. I was not in favor of that from the very beginning. And as before the vote, each one of us has our own individual opinion. Then after the vote, we are one board, and it is our responsibility to support the decision of the board. But I knew that there were people, it was polarizing in the city and polarizing in the district. I knew that that was going to be contentious, but I still feel that students should be in school. And that was a vote that I knew would put me in a different light. But everyone knows student achievement is my number one. So that is the decision that I made, and I still stand by that decision.
Yeah, excellent. And that's how, leadership 101, right? Make the hard decisions, but that's why we have different voices so we can make the best decision for whatever we're in charge from. All right. Great answer, ladies. We'll go ahead and move on. Miss Moody, your question is, school board decisions directly impact the daily lives of families and students. How does your current personal connection to our campuses help you understand the immediate needs of our classrooms? And how do you ensure the perspectives are represented at the school board table?
So, because I've been in the district for a long time, even before I was the school board trustee and my children were here, we have had the opportunities to create lasting personal relationships with teachers, staff, community members. But that is a very fine line that I walk with as a school board trustee. We are continuously being told to stay out of the weeds. And when you go into a school, when you go into a situation and you're going in as a trustee, you are not there to evaluate, you are there to support.
Yeah.
So when I go in as a person, I'm, oh, how are you? Everything's great. But when I go in as a trustee, it's about the business. So I do my best to leave my personal relationships with people out of that school setting because, in the role of a trustee and governance, that's not my responsibility. That's not what I'm there for. I am also an advocate for surveys because that's where we get our information from teachers, students, parents, and community members. That is their opportunity to engage with us as a school board member. When I was a room mother, I was only concerned about the children in that room. As a PTA at that time, before everything changed, you're concerned about the students at that school. But as a school board member, it is our expectation to take that balcony view for all of the schools and leave our personal relationships aside so that when the decisions need to be made, we're making them for everyone, not our friends or necessarily the people that we connect with and leaving out the people that we don't.
Excellent. Maria, want to answer your question?
Sure. So I'm a mom, first of all, but I will actually make an echo to what Felicia is mentioning. If I go into the school, I have different hats when I walk into any activity, I would say. I'm either walking in with the mom hat, and that's a whole different person that the trustee hat. And I make it very clear. I'm like, I'm here as a mom. Don't even introduce me as your trustee. But having children in our junior high, it also means that I'm going to be able to live the results of every single vote that's done. Looking back, we're mentioning the 4-day school week. I remember we were discussing the Monday childcare. This was back in April of last year, right when we were getting ready to prepare for what a 4-day week would look like. And it had already been voted on that we were going to a 4-day week, but what was going to happen, what was going to be done to ensure that everybody had childcare, at least for our elementary kids, and how we're going to meet the needs of our families. Because let's face it, childcare, it's not a convenience, it's an economic necessity for our families.
Absolutely.
I'm a working mom. This is something that also affected me. Um, so, in order to represent our families in an effective manner, we have to be able to be present in the details before meetings start. I am running here to ensure that parents will have an advocate who's ready to work the moment that gavel hits the table. So we've done our research. We are there to make those decisions after researching, after asking questions, that we are ready to make sure that what's presented out is something that parents and everybody in the community can understand. Because it's not just our parents in the district, it's also our community. Even if they are no longer parents in the district, they're still paying our taxes. So we want to make sure that they understand what they're paying for and what they're doing.
Yeah, I think the misconception too with the public is that they think that we're in charge, but that's not the case. We share power with the assembly, and that assembly includes the school district, and in y'all's case, that would be the superintendent. And so you're not supposed to be there to micromanage teachers, and nor would you want to, nor would teachers would want you there. It would just cause a bad problem for everybody. So I think it's just a misconception. People think we're gonna come in there and like, you, PE teacher, you should do it this way.
No.
And that's not the case. If we see something, we say something to, in your case, Chad. For me, it's the city manager. That's his staff. Let him take care of those issues. All right, let's keep on going. You guys are moving along a lot faster than James and Griff. I'm gonna give him a little jab there. All right, so Maria, parents want their students to be successful in school, but sometimes struggle to understand the curriculum or testing information. As a board member, what responsibility do you have to be able to help them beyond sending them to their campus administrator? Good question.
Ha. So school jargon, and that's something I've been called out for saying using the word school jargon. But let's be clear. It is sometimes confusing. It is difficult to understand at times, even for people with a lot of experience, even for very highly educated people. It's a whole different field. So when you talk about maybe we have to make the distinction in governance. So instructional materials are going to be managed at campus and administrative levels. The district improvement plans, it comes from the superintendent's office, and the role that trustees or the board in total has is to be able to support and provide oversight for that plan with absolute rigor. We got to make sure that it's being held to its standards, that we're holding people accountable for what they're supposed to be doing. And when they're not, saying, hey, what's going on? Why are we not doing this? And I propose is just to support it, ensuring just that. Our teachers have a competitive support and a culture of respect, and knowing that they're our rock stars. They are the ones that are out there in the playing field constantly with their children, dealing with parents, dealing with children, and having all these expectations placed upon them. And they need to have that support. So I plan on just evaluating this by holding the superintendent and the administration accountable so we can get those results and we can move our district from this last C rating that we got back to a great rating. Hopefully, we can make it to an A rating. I plan on being engaged and review the data and ask those tough questions before we vote on plans. These are meant to drive our kids' futures. And when I say our kids' futures, I actually look up and say, this is not really just kids' futures. These are my future caregivers. These are our future doctors, our future nurses, our future for professionals. What kind of society do I want to leave behind? What kind of society do I want my children? What kind of society do I want to be in power or in charge when I am an elderly person, when I am no longer in that kind of a position? So, giving them that support, putting those things into place so they get the education they deserve. And I strongly believe that that education can definitely be reached through a public education. It's not a matter of, oh, we got to send them off to private school so they can get a better education. No, our public education system is created to give everybody that education that they need and they deserve. And we just have to hold each other accountable for doing the right thing.
Excellent. I'll be the first to say that voucher program has been a failure. I don't care what anybody says. You look at the numbers, and the numbers are just not there. And a lot of the private schools don't want to participate either. All right, Felicia.
It's
Oh, go ahead.
it's definitely been a failure.
Yeah.
And we had school choice previously. There's If that's your choice, and you make do with what you do. And
Whatever gets them elected, right?
yeah,
So I'm going to divert a little bit
Go
from
ahead,
the
please.
question that was asked just because the vouchers came up.
Yeah, go ahead.
Um, it's interesting that people want to take from public school education to provide for private school. I grew up in a private school setting, so I understand why parents might want to choose to do that. However, my parents were very strong supporters of public school education, and they made sure to pay their taxes so that other children could go to school. They might not have been able to go to a private school. I believe if you want to send your children to a private school, go right ahead. But the tax dollars are for public school education. It is to make sure that all children have the right to a free, appropriate education. And you see, I get very passionate about that because I just think this is why we need to vote. You need to research and vote for people who support public education because I just don't feel, I think it's morally wrong to take that money from public schools and give it to the private sector.
Excellent.
Okay,
I'm
my
going to
soapbox.
jump in, Chef. I'm sorry if you
Go ahead, please.
that
It's
is
coffee chat. Let's have a
um
conversation.
I
the
do.
vouchers are a big thing for me. I echo Felicia. I myself come from from a private education setting. My mom had to do crazy things to be able to afford it. Where I come from, public education is not what it is here. It's definitely not the best education that you're going to be able to get. So private school was the way to get a good education. And I totally thank my mom that I was able to get that education. But even then, where I lived, my neighbors, they went to public schools. And my question always was, why is it that my neighbors are not receiving the same level of education? Why can't my neighbors speak English? That was one of my biggest questions. Like, why are my neighbors are not doing this kind of work that I'm doing just because I'm in a private school? And that's when my passion for public education began. This is not something that just kind of came up now as an adult or now that I live in the United States where my children go to public school. No, it's actually started way back when I was a kid and it continued. My original plans in life, but life has a way of switching things around,
Sure.
was to actually run for legislative seat in Puerto Rico just for that, to improve our education system. And definitely, taxpayers' money does not belong in private schools. You want your children in private school, you find your way to pay for private
Exactly.
school.
I think private schools would agree with you. A lot of them are not
Yes.
participating because they don't want the state to come in and tell them, "Hey, your curriculum's wrong," or
Or you don't have certified teachers.
yeah,
Not all situations are like that.
sure.
Um, so I will get back to the question
Yeah,
that was
please go ahead.
so as a school board member, um, we do not need to be into the day-to-day operations of this is your student's data and this is how you read the data because this is my background and because I love talking about student data. I have a different viewpoint about it, but just as a school board member, we should be able to explain to parents the reports that we've received. So when we're looking at our map data showing the growth at our campuses, that's something that as a school board member, we should be able to articulate to our community, students, teachers, community members, parents, whomever you're speaking to. If you want to know specifically, then yes, you need to talk to your teacher, your child's teacher, and your the campus administrator or central office staff if you're not able to make in contact with those individuals. As a school board member, we should be able to explain the current, because it is going to change, the current um, star testing information of your child did not pass. There's confusion between approaches and meets, and making it clear to parents that approaches means your child is at the door. They're not in the classroom, they're not in the living room, as I say. They're at the door ready, and they're going to need support. So when the teacher calls and says your child did pass this test, but they're not ready for this grade level, we need you to send your child to tutoring. I think a board member should be able to support and say, yes, that's why they're making that recommendation to you. Then to move to meets means you're in the living room, and masters means you're sitting there with the soda and the remote on the couch. You're actually ready for that grade level and to progress to the next grade level. So it doesn't need to be an in-depth understanding of the information and the data, but to be able to articulate that to teachers and from the teachers to the parents is an important aspect of board responsibility.
Which is where I come in with when I say making this into plain language so people can understand it in layman's terms. Because when we start speaking or explaining things in educational terms or educational jargon, we kind of lose people. And when it's explained in a way where people can understand it, just like Felicia, I love your explanation of using the living room and the door. Just when you explain it that way, it's a way that people can totally understand it. And I know because personally, there's times when the start results come and I'm like, okay, so what was this all about?
Yeah.
And you have to go and find out
Mhm.
I think
and
the whole state of
tell
Texas
people.
agrees with you on that.
Yes. Oh my
And
goodness.
yes, especially because it changes every year for
Right.
us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we never know what's going to happen. We never know what is going to come and what's the evaluation or what the standards are that year, which is a
And
whole
that's something
different
that I
subject.
had to learn as a parent because it was presented to us that your child passed this test. Okay, great. But then when I looked again, you did, but barely.
Yeah.
You're going to tutoring
Yeah.
because I need you to fill in these gaps
I can
because
see
this is
is
your foundation
passing.
for the
Yeah.
next year. And if you go to ninth, 10th, 11th grade with these gaps from middle school, it's going to be difficult
It's
for you.
already over by
So,
then. Yeah.
yeah, approaches is good, but it you still got to fill in those gaps.
I think
And
you've seen it
I go on and
online.
on about that. So, I mean, I like that kind of stuff. So I'm going to stop.
Like, like a C is a passing grade, but that means that you're still missing a lot of information that
Right.
you should have learned.
Yes.
Such a passionate question, such passionate answers. I think you both seen it online too. Teachers get on there and are like, look, your kids can't read. Like this is, I quit. Like I can't teach them. My hands are tied. The district's tying my hand. The state's tying my hand. And so you're seeing this echoed, and you guys have been kind of addressing this as trustees the last 5, 6 years so by trying to make it a good environment, bringing for teachers, bringing pay up, bringing testing grades up, doing the 4 day a week. You know, all these are tried to get those teachers that are just giving up on our population. And some of this might be COVID, and some of it might, it might not be. It could. I think it's lazy parents, in my opinion. I think for me, I have uniquely a good spread out view of Kennedale ISD because my oldest is in college now, my youngest is in kindergarten. So I've seen it grow, especially ever since Dr. G has come on. I think he's done an amazing job of innovation. I think he's hired the right people on his staff. You know, Dr. Vu is amazing, and just his senior staff for new programs, they do amazing things. And you can see the growth in Kennedale. You can see the progress, and you can see how our kids are excelling. And you guys seen me all the time on Kennedale News bragging about our kids because I'm out there and I see what amazing things they do, what amazing scholarships they get or awards they get nationally. And then even being outside of Canada, a lot of people, when you don't know this, but when you leave the bubble, people come up to me or come up to you guys and saying, "Oh, Canada's great. You know, we love your program here, your football program, whatever it is." We get stopped out in the greater community and in Texas, and sometimes over out like one of my Oklahoma. Oh, Kennedale, because I'm wearing something like this. But it's amazing how we are on the map for a small town. All right, great answers, great questions. Let's keep on going. Felicia, A trustee most often digests hundreds of pages of data and policy before a single vote. What is your process for researching complex district issues ahead of the meeting? And how does the independent preparation help you support rather than just react to our administrators and teachers? I'm going to say one thing. Y'all's questions are beautiful. You could tell that you guys are educated. Go ahead.
So, as school board trustees, we get information and we do get a lot of it. There are two parts of our agenda that allude to previous preparation. So, one thing is for the information only, and then I'm looking at our agenda, and another one is the things that we actually vote on. When you have information as far as the campus improvement plans, the board policies that we have to review, especially when the legislature meets, they give it to us in information only because it takes time to read through it. Um, Sometimes you get one or two reads, and then at the next meeting is when it will be for an action item for us to vote on. So I read that information. I make my notes, I highlight things. There are times when I'm able to submit questions in advance. Sometimes those questions are answered. Sometimes it just, they're not able to get back to me in a right before the board meeting. So then I'll ask the question there. Um, there are also times when, no matter how prepared I think I am, someone will ask a question or the presenter will make a statement.
Mhm.
And then, okay, so now I'm on a different road. One example of that was with our architect, and that presentation was in the board book. I looked through it, but he stood up. I can't even remember the word that he said, but it was some technical word, as Maria was saying something about jargon. Well, it was architectural jargon. What exactly does that mean? And no one else was going to say anything, so I am going to ask the question. Well, all it was how do you lay this material on top of this material and seal it? Well, just say that, and then I don't have to ask the question. Um, so if the expert is there, no matter what the research is that I've done, as much as I can prepare, I'm going to ask those questions. I can prepare and read the information as far as the audit. I'm an educator. I'm
Mhm.
not a chief financial auditor. When you present this information, I've made my sticky notes, I've submitted my questions. Um, and sometimes I have received an answer, but I still have a question. The other thing is, as far as support goes, because the community does not always come to our meetings, it's important for them. There are certain aspects of presentations that are important for them, in my opinion, for them to know. So I'm not necessarily asking the question because I don't have an answer. I want it publicly stated for the record. So if they go back and watch the board member,
Say
they're
something.
able to say, this, I had a question about the reading curriculum, and this is the answer to that question. I had a question about the bond, and this is an answer directly to that question.
I know I do the
And
same thing. I play dumb sometimes just so we can get an answer, an average answer, not a jargon answer to the public. That's
that
it.
everyone can understand. So,
Maria?
So for me, preparation is a form of respect for everybody, for our admin, whoever's presenting, for even the rest of our team, for the rest of the school board. So we have to prepare before the meeting and thoroughly review the board book. So we do not risk making those uninformed decisions that can have very lasting consequences on our classrooms. Um, in regards to the board book, yes, it's presented days in advance. I believe this year, the way they're doing it, it's actually being posted almost a week ahead, which it's even more time to be able to prepare for it. And a fun fact that I learned after being off the board is that you can actually publicly see the board book and see the presentations. And that has been the way that I've been able to keep up if I'm not able to go to the meeting. keep up by just listening, watching the video of the meeting and reading the board book, the what's publicly available. I've been able to keep up with what's going on in the district. And but in my case, I bring that professional standard of diligence. It's something that is ingrained in me that I have to do. Whenever I have a case, I have to prepare for my case ahead of time. I need to read through a lot of files, of case files, to be able to know what's going to be happening. And that's exactly what I bring back to the table. I don't just show up to the meeting, I show up having done the work. And being a collaborative leader is one that's mastered the facts. And when I say mastered the facts, of course, definitely, just like Felicia said, I am no financial guru whatsoever, but it just happened, 7, 8 persons on the board this year. We looked at the budget and no one saw the issues that were there. And I truly believe that we have a highly educated board.
Yeah,
The 7 persons that sit on that board right now and Dr. G, they're highly educated people.
absolutely.
So even highly educated people miss it. Anybody could miss it. That's definitely something. So how to work so that doesn't happen. One, it's definitely hiring the correct people to present this to you, and also doing the nitty-gritty of sitting down and trying to do math, as I call it, and reading those numbers and trying to bring them to a way that's understood. And that way you're prepared and you can contribute meaningfully to this team of 8. That way you're ensuring that everybody, our teachers, our staff, our students, our family, our taxpayers, everybody feels supported by a board that is prepared.
Absolutely. A lot of people
I,
don't want to. Go ahead. Go ahead, Felicia.
oh no, I will
You
follow
can
up
go.
with that to say there was one vote that we needed to make. I'm not sure if Ms. Cruz-Perez was on the board at that time or not, but it was presented right before we had to take a vote. So there are instances where you have to listen as much as you can because you've got to vote right then and there. It's rare that that happens, but sometimes it does. So all of the preparation that you did, it's a time crunch. Those
Yeah,
situations I said are few and far between, but there are sometimes that they happen. And then oftentimes, because our presenters are experts at what they do, they are fine tuning their presentations up until the last minute.
sure.
So they're going through the presentation, and sometimes you'll see me look over, do you have this? And it's like, no, it was an upgrade. Okay, well, great. Um, and then it's like, okay, so this was an upgrade. Will you send this to us so we have it in our records so we can go back and reference it? Um, I appreciate the presentations that we get and the fact that they're in the board book ahead of time. But like I said, when the expert stands up and there's something that, oh, I didn't catch that, I'm going to ask the question at that time. There was one we just talked about with the GT program. I am a proponent of every person being represented in our programs. So, where are the boys? Did they start and they dropped off? Where are our Hispanic boys? Where are African American boys? Did they just not participate? What's going on? So those are questions that, as the presentation is being given to us, when someone else asks a question, then your lens changes to, I thought I was good, but now I have a question. So things change. Preparation is important. Knowing what's on the agenda, being able to read those things in advance. But then, too, I want to say this, the principals do a great job of working with their staff to do their campus improvement plans.
Yeah,
And
they
they
do.
might give us a 2-page cheat sheet. But when you read the CIP, their improvement plans, it's way more detailed. So I appreciate this information that you're giving me, but I have a question about this information. So if we're going to improve reading and you have it highlighted on your 2-page fact sheet, what are we doing for 3rd grade? What are we doing for 4th grade? What are we doing for 6th grade? Are the questions that I'm going to ask.
Yeah, I'm on three of those boards for three principal advisory boards, and they do amazing job and make sure we
Yes.
get their input from their teachers
Mhm.
and from the public to get those things over to you guys. And a lot of people at home don't understand, like on a good day for me, it's 100 pages. That's a short night on city council. Don't get me started on budgeting and stuff like that, where it's half a folder that takes up half of my bookshelf. And then we get the ours on Friday, with Tuesday being our city council meeting. So you have to digest with life over the week and all that stuff. But a lot of times you do want to skim over some of it, read the contracts, and then rely on the experts to explain it to you so you can have follow-up questions. I think the follow-up questions is what's most important during the meeting because I think that's where, just like we are expanding on these questions and segueing and doing what we're doing, that's how you really get to the nitty-gritty of it all. All
I'll
right,
give
let's
you
go ahead, Mary.
I'll give you a fun fact about the GT program. So my oldest one is in the GT program. Um, was identified in pre-K. I remember getting the letter and I was like, "What? What is this?" And from his group, so he's currently in seventh grade, so the current junior high group, it's actually majority are boys
Yeah.
and majority are Hispanics. Um, oddly enough, for that group. And so I can speak on that grade level. But I do understand what you're saying on were we testing them preemptively? Were we testing them on time? Were we testing them with the right testing? Those are questions that need to be answered. Why, what? But we also have to understand that there's many variables that contribute to the testing results. It's not just, and because I've always said, and this is just like the way I say it, GT is definitely not all only grades. And everybody
Right.
has to stop looking at GT as being, oh, this is the smart kid that gets all
Yeah.
A's,
Yeah,
because it's not the case.
Right.
These are the different kids. That's
Hmm.
what I call them. These are these kids that may not have all A's. And you're like, but they don't have all A's, but they have this
Brilliant
different
brain.
way of thinking and of
that was
coming
me.
to solutions that you're like, what? How did you figure this out? And I personally know it because I'm constantly exposed to my son's group of friends, and they all are. They're a very tight knit group, and I think that is because of their differences to the rest of the class. And it's pretty interesting. And the fact that in GT, we also see a lot of twice exceptional children, so meaning that they actually have learning difficulties or learning differences, plus they are considered to be gifted and talented. And how do we approach and how do we make sure that that balance exists where they are getting the services they need for their learning difficulties, but they're also challenged enough so they're kept engaged and they don't fall behind because the
Training.
academic part
Mhm.
is not challenging them. How do we manage that to have that balance? And that's something I believe our GT program does kind of struggle with. And I'm seeing it at the junior high level, which is very different from what it was in the elementary level.
And then as the kids get older, and this is was the comment that I made during the meeting is it's they like it in elementary school, but in middle school and high school, sometimes you want to conform to what your friends are doing. You don't
Sure.
want to really stand out and all that kind of stuff. And I understand that.
Yeah.
I also know that parents have the right to deny the program. So if you don't want to do the extra work and the extra projects, you may say, no, I don't want to do that. And that information was presented to us as well. But if those questions aren't asked, then people don't have that information. They're not previewed to prove they don't have that information. Um, and I think our goal, our responsibility as a trustee is to ask the question.
Yeah, I'll reiterate what I said earlier. The district, I think, does an amazing job with programs. And it goes even back to 3-year-olds. So three of my kids were tested for speech at age 3. And in the speech program, by the time they were in pre-K and kindergarten, and were successful on graduating at that. Now Jason's being tested later on this year for gifted and talented. But even beyond that, both of y'all have been involved in all this too. But there's programs even for parents, like for bilingualness or just to educate them after school. And so there's a lot. I think the district does a great job, and they can never be blamed for this. And again, this credit to both of y'all. You were both trustees at the time, and making sure that we have programs from early childhood, which we have a brand new beautiful school, and up until they're graduated and beyond for the parents that are locally. That way, the parents can help their students that are in the program as well. Which, because you all three of us will agree, it starts with the parents. So if we don't educate our parents too, then that's the case. And again, public education, that's what it's there for. That's why we pay the highest tax in our bracket for school districts is for all these programs. And again, I think that's credit to, Dr. G and on the trustees for having the vision and the willingness to do these programs and spend the money to do so as well. All right, great, great. We're great segues. I
I
love it.
think I
We're doing
think
good
I
in
can
time.
say that as a parent, I have one of my children that is served under a 504 right now, but he has learning differences. And even knowing everything I know as being a trustee and doing all the research I do, and I've posted about this in social media. I wake up at 4 in the morning every day to get my day started with homework and school board stuff and preparing for my day before I even get off to go to work, which then I'm out of touch with life until 6 o'clock in the afternoon. But there's times when things were presented to me regards to this, and I was like, "Oh, what does this mean?" And I would have to actually go research to bring it down to like where I could really understand it.
Right.
And sometimes the meetings are, if you're not aware and if you're not really engaged and if you're not really finding what it means as a parent, it can totally go right over your head. I remember my husband went to one of the meetings because I was hospitalized and he had to go. When I came back and saw what he responded, I'm like, why did you even do that? Like, that's not what we talked about. He's like, oh, it just sounded right. And I was like, oh my God, no, because he did not understand it. And he's fluent in English, so he understood what was being said. He just did not understand what the process was. So it's and we do have a great program, and definitely do not take this to say that I don't think we have a great program. I've been having this support for quite a few years now, and I've received support consistently whenever I need any help on that sense. And as I mentioned, the hats, and I come in and I say it straight up. I'm like, I'm being a mom right here. If Mama Bear comes out, it's Mama Bear. Do not even think of me as any other person. I'm just being a mom. But it's a lot to digest and it's a lot to understand. And I believe Ms. Moody will definitely agree, and I know her background is in special education, that it is difficult to understand and all the different nuances of what is a 504, what is an IEP, what can be done in one, what cannot be done in the other. And parents, we get confused, including myself. You get confused and you have to, I have a whole binder and I have like my little cheat sheet. This is what 504 is. This is what
Yeah,
IEPs are. This is what
absolutely.
happens. So you can truly understand what's going on. And
Yep.
that's when I say about plain language, it's being able to bring this to people, to our families in a way that they can understand it.
I think that's the crutch of education is you have educators. They're the best, the smartest, that we have in the United States, and this is their backyard, so they're going to make it very smart and very high tech and everything about it. And then your average parent is like, I don't know what this is. So it's just the backyard that we created, and it's the backyard that we play in basically on and education. All right, let's move on. All right, this is for Maria. Community members often become public servants because they believe they have ideas and suggestions to improve the quality of life for others. What were 2 to 3 campaign goals you set for yourself when you first ran for office? Were they achieved? If not, what barriers did you encounter? If elected, what strategies would you implement to achieve them? I love it how that's 5 questions in one, Felicia. I love it. Go ahead, Maria.
Well, as we've already talked, having a specific goal for an individual in a school board is a role that the school board just doesn't have. My main goal originally in 22 when I ran, when I decided to say, yes, I want to be part of this. And now, actually, I'm going to backtrack for a minute. I was a PTO president at the time and Delaney, and I was like, yes, this is great, but I'm not a glitter mom. I'm not a handicrafts mom, and this is fulfilling, this is fun, but this is not who I am. This is not what I wanted. So when the place was open for school board, and that's when I decided to run over the first time, it was like, yes, this is where I can serve. This is where I can be a servant, to serve our people, be a public servant. And I can't say that my goal is anything in particular. This is not an us versus them. This is not something where, yes, I'm going to make sure that, I don't know, we have only 15 kids per classroom. I would love to make promises like that, but you know what? We have specific roles and specific powers within the board. So my personal goal was and is to work effectively as a part of a team of eight so we can support everybody in the district, not just our students, not just our teachers, not just our admin, everybody in the district, including our neighbors in Arlington. And we always kind of forget. It's like Kennedale ISD as part of our neighbors in Arlington that pay taxes as well. So everybody, all of our stakeholders, that way, but at the same time, ensuring that I observe those ethics that a trustee has to uphold to. I'm committed to following our board policy and procedures right on target. As you know, and many people know, I'm a federal employee. So that is something that is just ingrained in me, and I'm not going to stray from that. I'm committed to this. Uh, Transparency and representation, as I've mentioned already, it starts with the preparation. Our families need to be heard. We need a board that represents our community, and they need a representative who does the work before the cameras are on, before the gavel hits the dais. And I plan on bringing that, just ethical, prepared leadership to the table every single time to ensure that our board operates with integrity to our community and works together as a team of eight. I will say that when I was on the board, I believe we worked pretty well. And there's obviously it's seven persons making decisions, and we are not always all going to agree. And if we all agreed on everything, I think it would defeat the purpose of having a board.
Scary that would be, actually.
That would be very scary. That would be very scary. So there's always going to be difference of opinions, but it's a matter of finding a common ground. And I believe we all have that common reason, that common why we do this because we care. This is not a paid position. This is something that takes time, that takes effort, that takes a lot of reading. We've talked about consistently talked about how much you have to prepare for this and what you have to understand, and how some of it is stuff that we just don't know. Yeah, the architectural stuff that Ms. Moody mentioned previously. I am definitely no architect either. So when you're reading that stuff, you're like, what are we talking about? Or when they're talking about the engineering part, I'm like, okay, so I have to Google some of this stuff and I have to translate myself and bring it down to something that I understand what's being said. But I want to make sure that our board operates with the integrity our community expects, and that we are able to bring that to the table as a team of eight and work together and find that common ground that benefits everybody in the district. Are we going to make every single person happy? I wish, but that would be living in an utopia, and it's unfortunately not possible. But if we can make majority happy, definitely. And those that we can't make happy, let's try to find a happy medium. And that's kind of where I have always been. It's like, okay, this is not the happy for everybody. This is not 100% solution for everybody, but let's find something that can actually benefit everybody to a certain extent. And let's see what we can help those that are not being benefited 100% with this. How can we help them?
Moody?
Well, public service is something that I have always engaged in. Even as a child, I would help other campaign people pass out literature and just be involved in the political process. So when we first moved to Kennedale, it was how can we use the system that we have to make it better? And that's why I ran for school board the first time and why I continue to serve as a trustee because my lens is from a taxpayer, from a community member, from a parent, from an educator. What can we do to make our system better? Keeping in mind that we are competing against other districts, we're competing against charter schools, and we're competing against private schools. So, how can we make Kennedale ISD the best ISD option for all the people that I just mentioned? So, when I first ran, I did not win, but I did have a vision for how can we make Kennedale ISD better? And one of those things was the culinary department. We didn't have a culinary department, but other districts did. And they were using that to draw students to their districts. So that was an idea. Okay, eventually we need to do this because we can't afford to lose any children to another district for that. And as I said, I didn't win. However, that idea grew legs.
Hmm.
And people were like, okay, yeah, that's a good idea. We can work together to make that happen. So between that years ago with that loss came something good. So now not only do we have a culinary department, we have a competitive culinary arts department.
The most
I didn't even know
successful
that was
program
a
we have.
thing.
Yeah.
Right. I thought you were just going to learn how to be a good chef and you get credit for it. Well, now, no, it's competitive and they are amazing and they are wonderful. So that was a vision and a goal that I had when I first ran. The other one is it has not come to complete fruition, but it's a work in progress, and that is transparency and accountability. The reports that we get now are very detailed, very concise, and pretty much, unless it's architecture or budget and finance, very easy to understand. That has evolved. I know we take that as standard operating procedure now, but when I first was on the board, that was not the case. We have a calendar now. We know when we're going to talk about certain academic reports. We know when we're to do different evaluations, and it's standard operating procedure. So I would say that was a vision of mine and it's continuing to be a work in progress because systems always can improve. And then being transparent and holding people accountable for the work that they're doing, also celebrating that accountability along the way. Small wins keep people motivated. Um, do you have to address the data? Yes. Do you have to create a plan to improve that data? Yes. But we can't hide anything. We have to put everything on the table and then make the best decision possible for our students and our community. So that would I would say is continues to be a work in progress.
Um, I would add to this, or I would rebuttal with the fact that yes, these are things that have been developing and have improved within the board in the last 6 years. But let's be clear, this is not something that only one trustee can claim achievements of. Again, this is a team of eight. It's taken a team effort to bring it to the table. So I can actually claim the same facts. We all work together. Most of us actually worked on regards to the bond for 2023. We were there at those town hall meetings. We talked to people. We explained what a bond was and how it affect everybody. We were there for that bond to be able to get the culinary lab that we actually have right now and how we all fought for it and wanted to have this for our students, for our district. So these are great achievements to have. These are great goals to have, but we got to keep in mind that they were achieved by a group of people, not just an individual that brought them to the table and boom, bam, it was done. These were achievements that were a work in progress that were worked on through a team, and the celebration actually belongs to the board that was in place at both times. When during this time that it's happened, it's not just the achievement of one personal or one individual. And that's something that
So
should be
let
very
me,
clear
yeah,
because
I will
that's
respond.
exactly what we need to explain to our parents and our community, that a board member has pretty much no power on this, that it's a team that works together. It's a team that works with administration, that we work in conjunction with them, that we provide the oversight and we make clear what the governance status, what the governance is from a school board aspect, and what we're able to do and not do, and how we have certain roles that we are held to. So if there was not a majority and if there was not a follow through from everybody sitting at that dais, these things would not have happened.
You are correct. So let me be clear to reiterate what I stated. It starts with an idea. It starts with a desire to improve and see things better. It starts with, I don't have the power to make this come to fruition, but I have an idea. As I stated, the idea was presented. I wasn't a part of the board that put it through fruition. I just made a statement. I think this would be good for our district if we put this in place.
Sure.
And the we that served on the board before I was elected, and the people with Dr. G's committee, his cabinet, put it through fruition. The same thing with the bond. It was an idea that was presented from one individual. I think you all are going to have to go to a bond. That individual is no longer on the board, but the thought that he put in motion is what drove that decision for us to come together and vote to do the bond. So it's not one individual that does all of the work. It's one individual that has an idea. The other thing I will say to that is people still don't know that we have an amazing welding
We do.
department.
Mhm.
That that's part of marketing. That's not something that I specifically can say I had anything to do with. I didn't. But we have it. So whoever thought that that was a good idea, that is a skill that our students benefit from. They put that in motion. They put that through fruition. They brought the ideas to whomever makes the decisions and says, how can we work this into our system? And that is our responsibility as community members. And that is our responsibility as a school board member. If this is a good idea, we support it. And if it's not a good idea, if they didn't think that was a good idea, they wouldn't have taken it. So having a vision for moving our district continuous to moving us forward is where trustees give their input. Another idea that came out of the Summer Leadership Institute, where the golden wildcats, that was an idea that was presented, like I said, based on the training that we received this summer that's in place now. I'm not over that, but it's a great idea. And the community is very excited about that. That is something that one member of the board said, I think this will be good for our district. I meet seniors all the time, people who have graduated from Kennedale ISD. We have retirees. They want to be involved. They want to be engaged. They just don't know how. So this plan was put in place. Like I said, that wasn't my idea, but I wholeheartedly support it. And I think it's a great idea. It was the vision of one member who said, let's do this, and we're doing it.
I think
Yes,
our
I believe
district,
that was Debbie
yeah,
Villagomez's,
vehicle
I
mission.
believe, I think it was Villagomez that brought it. And when I first saw about it, I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. The school I went to actually does something very similar where every month they highlight uh, their alumni. And then those of us that have um, graduated with some years behind us already, we become part of this advisory board that advises the current high schoolers on what they can do in the future, not just about college, but also just overall, because it was a very small school. So my class was only 42. So we have that kind of program in place where I'm connected with a student that I mentor
Yeah.
throughout their high school career in that school, and not just for what do you want to do for college, it's what do you want
Mhm.
to be yourself once you finish your education, once you are done with college, what are you looking at, what are you wanting to do, and then you kind of keep up with them for a few years until after they graduate, and they're highlighted throughout the year. And I think it's great, and seeing how Kennedale put this into work in this manner. It was great when I saw it. I first actually saw it on Facebook. I'm like, wow, this is a really cool idea. And I had to read more on it because I thought it was great that we had that in place.
I think Kennedale has a gold star for its high school programs. I went to two high schools, but I graduated Arlington High. They taught for college. That's what we did back in the 90s. And you could see this kind of flood. We all went to college, we all got educated, and you see this flood, and it's not quite the value it was in the 90s, having these degrees behind us, and then, of course, weird degrees that won't lead to a job. And so it was good to see the high school get back to what we used to do 50, 60 years ago, which was skill set stuff, a trade or something like that. Not that my high school didn't do or have a shop class, but that was a elective. It wasn't a program. And I think that's what Kendall High School does very well, and Kegel supports every one of these programs. Is you want to be an educator? Well, we'll catch you at a freshman. Now you're in the education program, and so instead of you doing classes and electives for just in general for college or to prep you for college, we're prepping you for education for college, or we're prepping you for cooking and the food industry. Which UTA, by the way, is about to build a whole campus in Arlington just for hotels and restaurants. And it's going to be on the south side of Dallas Cowboy Stadium. So even the university is starting to recognize that these are fields that of skill sets that people can go to that we can educate and they can get involved. And that's why I love the Kennedale ISD and the high school is that we give those opportunities. That if you want to go to college, we'll prep you for college. If that's not your thing, you want to go to the military, we support that. Here's all the branches. We'll come to you. If you wanted a skill set, if you want to work on cars or something similar, we have programs for that too, and that's what makes our district a gold star in Texas, in my opinion. Okay.
I totally agree with you. And I definitely believe, that not all degrees get you a job. I'm one of those that started with a very interesting degree that my last semester I realized that it was not going to get me anywhere. And it wasn't until recently when I decided, "Oh, you know what, this is public administration is what I want." So I'm finishing my degree now in public administration. But I ended up because of a specific skill set that I have that it's not like easily available. You would be surprised. I've been able to have a very lucrative and very professional career for over 20 years now, doing the same thing and been able to be exposed to many different things. From I've interpreted all the way from Canada all the way down to South America, and for militaries in different countries. I've interpreted the UN, interpreted in for government entities, so all these kind of things. But if you would have asked me when I was in high school if this is something that I would have seen me doing, I totally would have said no.
Yeah.
I'm just learning languages because I think it's fun. I'm not learning a third language because I plan on making a career out of this. Because I actually don't use my third language whatsoever for my career. So I wouldn't have known. But in regards to the question, I want to say that one of the things I personally remember doing during my time on the board is I complained constantly about the emails and the notifications and messages that we got that were translated. So at home, my husband receives them in Spanish, I receive them in English, and we had to laugh many times. I'm a translator by trade, right?
Yeah.
It's what I've
Yeah.
been doing for over 20 years. I've been interpreting for over 20 years, and I make my living off words and of this. And I would see the Spanish versions that was being pushed out. And I would remember I would go to G and I'm like, my God, they made you sound horrible in that Spanish translation. It was so badly translated. And I understand that it was AI.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was not a person that was translating it. But
In Spain Spanish, I'm sure.
no, it wasn't even Spain
Oh, okay,
Spanish.
good. That's what I run into.
It was a mix of everything. And it was literally a mix of everything. And and I get it. And don't get me started on AI in my profession, but I was like, oh, I hate it. I hate how makes you sound. I hate how it reads. It doesn't read properly. It's not understandable. And I would constantly, I think it was an every week thing that I would send him a message. I'm like, oh, that sounded horrible. Oh, that sounded horrible. I am so glad that once we switched over to Parent Square, the fact that our parents actually can choose their language, the translation, it's still AI, but it is a much better translation. Is it perfect? No,
It's
but it is
consistent.
a much better. It's consistent, it's much better. It's better at keeping like wildcats as wildcats, not using wild cat, which is what the Spanish was saying. So they were calling us a cat that is wild. Um, and it's something that I was very happy once we moved into Parent Square to see, and I still see it daily in my home. Because again, as I said, my husband gets it in Spanish, I get it in English, and it's funny. My kids actually read it in both languages because that's our way of practicing their
Good.
Spanish, and they laugh. Sometimes when we see the errors in translation, they're like, "Oh, mom, that's not what it was supposed to say, is it?" And I was like, "Nope. How would we do this better?" So I use it as a teaching moment for them, but there's still things that need to be improved in that process. And not just for Spanish. I can speak on Spanish. It's the only languages I receive in my square and the one I changed into my square. But I dare to say, that the other languages that are spoken in our community, and we have quite a bit of them. I believe it's over 30 languages that we
Yeah.
speak in our
The
community
Syrian community is
are not
expanding
being
here.
represented are not receiving necessarily the information they need in a language they understand.
Yeah.
And you might be able to speak, like I said, my husband's fluent in English. He works, he has a career, he communicates in English on a day-to-day basis, but he prefers to absorb information in his primary language, like many people do. And it's sometimes difficult. And I wonder how it happens to these other families that speak a different language. Like, are you really being able to engage and participate? Are you receiving this information the way you should be receiving it in a manner that you're able to fully participate and understand it? Just because the translation is not a, an appropriate translation. Or board meetings, for example, they're in English. That's all there is. So, are these families feeling that they are able to come and speak? Are they feeling that they are part of our district, or do they still feel like they're left out? I
Mhm.
met with a family from Cameroon. Their home language is French. And that was one of the questions that they asked. They're like, well, we understand English, we speak English, we're fluent in English, but some things we need to listen in our language. How do we do that? I did guide them through how to fix it on Parent Square, but they were still asking that. Like, how do we do this to understand it, especially for the parents? They're like, English is our third language at this point. We need some support here. How does this happen? And I was able to guide him through the process. I even told him, like, if you want to visit a board meeting, the process of requesting an interpreter, how it works. And but that's what we need. We need to be able to reach all of our families.
Sure.
And those are decisions that the board needs to make on how do we hold accountable our district to be able to reach everybody at the table. This is not just about minorities. This is not just about Hispanics. This is not just, I can only do it in two languages, but it's for everybody that's there. Everybody that's there and understand, like you mentioned, is it in Spanish, in Spain, Spanish. You're right. I mean, if it's brought on in a different version of Spanish from a different country, some people might not actually understand it. It's finding that happy neutral tone where everybody that speaks Spanish would be able to understand the context and what's being said. And the same thing for many other languages because language changes throughout the regions,
Sure
just
does.
like we see it in the United States. Soda, Coke, pop.
It's a Coke, by the way. I will go to my grave on that.
Exactly. For me, it's soda. So
I mean, it's pop.
it's pop. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm Texan. I mean, born, partially raised, but in the Midwest, it's pop.
Yeah, Midwest is
Yeah.
pop. Yeah.
So, and for me, coming into the United States and learning, and as an interpreter, having to adapt to my public is difficult because I have to adapt to whatever way they're speaking in English and to what my public is receiving in Spanish. So it's interesting, and we need to make sure that that can be done to the best of our ability. And there's no 100% precision way unless you have an full on translator on board at 100% full time. And that's something that I totally understand that it would not be uh, doable right now. But we have to find that medium, that happy medium that actually we can achieve that. The same thing for when a parent comes into the district who have a question, goes for a board for a parent teacher conference. Do you want that interpreter to be there, be part of the staff that is interpreting? Or would you feel more comfortable if it's actually a neutral individual? And I think we can all agree that we want that neutral individual. We don't want somebody interpreting when when they're interpreting from the hand that feeds them. Like you want that neutral person there. You want to have that availability there where you feel comfortable that this person has an ethics whole code that they have to uphold and has certain things. So those are things that I think our district can definitely improve on, but those are works in progress. Are they priorities at this point? I do not believe so. I think our priorities should be to bring our ratings back to where we need to be and get our fiscal issues back to where they have to be. I believe the district has put in place different systems already to address these issues and that we can go forward and we can get ahead. And hopefully we will get more state support
Or get
so
them
we
out of
can
it.
see, so we can, you know, be able to do more.
So
Felicia,
I
on
will
same
follow
notes.
up before we move on to our
Oh,
next question with what Ms. Cruz-Perez just said so eloquently that she is obviously very passionate about, and that is her idea. That would be her vision. That would be her goal. So she sees something that can be improved upon, and whether or not she is able to bring it to fruition, it's an idea and concept that's being brought from her experience as a parent in the district and as a community member. And that is what a community public servant does. You observe, you experience, you notice where something can be improved upon. And whether you're the person that puts it in action or not, you speak it so that other people can hear it. And then they take the necessary steps because they're the ones that actually have the job title or position to bring it to fruition. So that is exactly what I was saying with culinary. It was an idea. Other people put it into fruition. She has an idea. Other people will put it into fruition. Parent Square, moving it from what it was when our youngest graduated to the Parent Square now. That was an idea. Parents said, this is not working. What can we do to make it better? But you have to vocalize that. You have to see it from the lens of how can we improve what we have and make it better. For our students, our parents, our community, and our taxpayers.
I think that's a good segue to the next question. Actually, we kind of touched on this a little bit,
Mhm.
but it's for you, Felicia. Kennedale is a beautifully diverse community with evolving needs. What specific professional skills or community engagement strategies do you use to ensure that every family, regardless of their background, has a direct, accessible line to communication to the board? So we kind of just talked about it, but let's expand a little bit about it. Go ahead.
So I don't have a professional communication strategy. I am a person and I am approachable. Um, People come to me with questions. If they're personal questions, they think, you're a member of the board, you can answer this question for me. No, there are procedures. So if you have a personal question, then I will be able to channel you to the right person that can answer that question. I will listen. I will take notes just so I can say, you contacted me, I sent your information on, did you get a response? And then that's up to you. I'm in the community. We've been here for a while. Even before we moved here, we were active and involved. So I have experience of going to planning board meetings and going to city council meetings, just walking the neighborhood, shopping at the grocery store. And because people know that I'm approachable, they will ask me questions. As far as them channeling them to the board, there's a procedure. So you have the opportunity to come to the board meeting for a public comment. Then you talk to the entire board, not just one individual, which is the goal. Everyone is to have all of the information at the same time so that someone doesn't feel that, oh, you're friends with so and so, so then you get to get your voice heard. That's not the way we operate. That's not what we do. um, I don't always have the answer to some of the questions that are being asked, which is why I am honest to say I don't have an answer for you. But I know the principal does. I know the superintendent does. And he wants us to go through the channels, not go straight to his office. And I understand that because he has a district to run. Um, but I'm channeling you to the right person. If you're going to address the entire board at the same time, I would say the system that is in place, which is the public comments, that is where you do that. Are we able to engage with you? No, those are the rules of engagement. But we do take notes. We do ask for follow up. We do say, please investigate what this individual is sharing with us and making them comfortable in wanting to be involved with their student, wanting to be involved with the process is how we, as individual board members, and then as a board as a whole, how we engage our parents and our families. Um, I like parent meetings. I like when we had one in the community where the parents were able to come and ask their questions. As Ms. Cruz-Perez said, there is formal Spanish, and I do not speak Spanish, but I have worked in a school where that is the predominant language. And then there's comfortable, is how I call it, comfortable Spanish. And you get a family from Honduras, a family from Venezuela, a family from Mexico, a family from Spain, a family from Puerto Rico, and each section of their Spanish is a little bit different. So
Especially Puerto
trying to
Ricans.
combine all of that to where it makes sense, I understand the challenge. And I also understand the challenge of I'm sometimes I am in the position where I'm giving information and I know enough to where if I say, this is what I want the parent to know, and this is what's communicated, I can say, that's not what I said. I need you to translate that accurately.
Mhm.
Um, I know a little bit of French, so I can't don't speak it, but I can say that's not what I'm trying to communicate. Now, Arabic, we have family members that are in our district.
Yep.
As Ms. Cruz Perez said, we're going to have to work together to see how to meet that language challenge because we do have families that have moved into our community. We do have languages that are not our average typical language, but their language also is very important. Their culture is important. So, how do we connect with them? And I think the family meetings out in the neighborhoods are very good ideas. I know we've done it once. I know we get, well, we only have 5 parents to show up to these
Yep.
events, but those 5 parents matter.
Hmm.
Those 5 parents have a voice. Those 5 parents will take that information and share it. So even if it is 5 parents that show up, in my opinion, I'm one member of the board, I'm one trustee, but I think that matters. And, if I can encourage other people to support that, I do. But as she said, as one member, I can only make the suggestion. And then we decide to do it or to not to do it. But I am in favor of as much information that we can get out to our parents and the community, the stronger we're going to be.
And just be clear, Puerto Rican Spanish is bad Spanish. Go ahead, Maria.
I did not.
Um, I
I did not say that.
I will object,
I know you will, but
Mr. Moderator. It
it's
is
the New York
actually
influence.
considered, it is actually considered to be one of the most neutral Spanishes.
That's true. That is true.
Spanishes, that is a bad plural.
Yeah.
One of the most neutral versions of Spanish. But
It's the one with the most vernacular, with the most common Spanish. Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
but the
Terms.
problem is that since we we're American, American born
Yep.
citizens,
Exactly.
are the influence English has in our lives from the get-go, from in our culture,
And New York
when
English
we
is
are
what it is too.
able, and
Yeah.
our New York
Yeah.
Boricuas, and so when as Puerto Ricans, when we immigrate to the United States, when we move over to the United States, we're able to adapt easier. So we kind of, you don't see that difficulty. The people actually have more of a difficulty with our speed, the way we speak with our cadence and our speed, our accent,
It's
more
rough
than
for me too.
actually the words. Yeah. So I have to moderate my voice, my accent, my speech, and my speed when I'm working. And it's really interesting because then people hear me outside in the hallways and they're like, wait, was that you interpreting? That doesn't sound the same. I'm like, yep, that's me, but that's the interpreter
The
working.
machine gun is what I call it.
Yep.
But go ahead and answer the question. It's your question, so.
So I'm out there and we're talking about interpreting, we're talking about my career. And what I do, it's to make sure that nothing is lost in translation, right? And that's the same skill I want to bring to our community. It's being that bridge builder between our families and our district. I am very approachable. I am pretty easy to contact. I mean, my phone number is actually posted publicly. Um, and I'm willing to take a phone call, get an email, get a messenger, and I will be available to speak with you. That is not a problem. But like Miss Moody said, there's things that I am not going to give you the answer on because it's not in my role. But if you have a general question and I don't have that information that you're requesting, like right there at my fingertips, or it doesn't come to in my brain, it can only hold so much, and I know where to find it, but I don't have the information, I will make sure that I can direct you and guide you to where you can find the right source and get you the clarity that you need, like the family needs, and even put you in contact with the right person. I've done it previously. I've connected people through an email. I'm like, hey, this person here has this question. Can you please help them out? Because there's many times that, or when we have complaints, that is one thing, whether they're from community members or from families, that is something that I'm very careful with. Like, okay, hi, glad you reached out, but you know what? Leave it right there. Don't give me any more information because you want me to be a neutral party if this ever escalates into a level 3 grievance. And in order for that to happen, I do not want to know any of the details. I don't want to be privy to any details. But this is the web link where you can go. This is where the information on level 1, level 2, level 3 grievances. This is where you can go ahead and file grievances. And this is the timelines you should expect. And you do the process, go through the process, go through the steps that you have to do. And I always say, when they come, when I've had people come to me with an issue, I'm like, did you talk to the teacher? Like, because usually you can solve things just by talking to the teacher
Sure.
and you don't even have to go into the process. It's like, talk to your teachers. That's what they're there for. They're
They're their own
there
bosses, really. Yeah.
and they're amazing and they will work with you, and they will explain to you something. But if you do have a problem, this is what you have to do. So that's as much as I far as I go with any complaints that comes my way. But if there's information that is being requested of me regarding star testing or things that I can give them a general answer, I will give that general answer and then guide them to right sources so they can get that clarity. Um, and transparency only works when there is an open communication, and I'm committed to making sure every family just feels heard, and represented. That's what I do. That's who I am. I am very approachable. I'm known for always walking around with a big smile on my face and being loud and hyper and jumpy. And
Taking the heat
people
sometimes
might,
too.
and taking the
Yeah.
heat. I'm always willing to take the heat. People might actually misunderstand that part of my personality to who I am. I'm someone that actually I'm I'm a lifelong learner. I have never stopped learning in my life. I was taught to always investigate, always research, always question everything that's presented to me
Yep.
and only come back with facts. And that's how I plan on continuing. And that's what my transparency means. And I will make sure that our families know how to get those facts and where to get them and not give them the slightest idea that they're going to get a special, favor just because they're my friends. I've had friends when I was on the board that would reach out to me because they had an issue.
Hmm.
And I, my response was, well, yeah, I believe, don't tell me anymore. I believe you need to file a grievance. And I'm just going to let you know that just because we're friends, if this comes to the board as a grievance, I will step down and I will recuse myself because we're friends. And I don't think it's fair. And that's what I bring to the table. That's what I bring to the dais. I want to be that constant neutral party. I don't want people to think that I have special interest for one person or another, or one community group versus another. No, I care about I don't know off the top of my head, but I've always used the 2,800 students that we have in Kennedale.
Hmm.
That's who I care about. I care about all of them. I consider them all my children, and I want to make sure that they get what they deserve and that our teachers get the support they need to be able to teach them.
I think Puerto Ricans and culturally, the most important thing, we're not all educated, but we do think education is the most important thing we could do for our children and our group, our society, basically. All right, last question. Y'all ready? So I'm asking y'all to take off your trustee hats and put on your supermom hats. I know you're both supermoms, and putting aside the childcare aspect of this question, I wanted to ask you guys' thoughts as a mom on next year's schedule, and just to so everybody understands where we're coming from. last year this year, well, last year you guys enacted the 4-day work week to entice teachers to stay, and it worked. Everything's great. The state came in, just so everybody understands. The state came in and said, "Hey, what about your days?" And we said, "Well, no, we're doing hours." And they said, "No, even though we pay you by hours, you still have to do days." And the result was this kind of convoluted schedule next year. So as a parent, I just wanted to hear y'all's thoughts on that too, and we'll start with Maria.
Okay, so I'm gonna put on both hats for this
Okay, fair
one.
enough.
I have to put on both hats for this one. So I'm gonna be very honest. Ms. Moody knows this. When the 4-day week was first proposed, I was very, 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 and we can do that in bold and caps, strongly against it. Um, but sometimes you see what's coming, right? And you realize that, oh, this is coming to stay. So just like we had to do with vouchers, we're like, okay, completely against it. Went to Austin and everything, but they're here. So how do we approach this situation? Well, it was kind of the same thing with the 4-day week.
Yeah.
I was ready to vote against it. I was completely against it. There was a shift, and I said, "Okay, Maria, you're not this black and white person. This is not who you are. This is not what you preach. This is not what you teach your children. You need to start doing some research and reading more about this and stop thinking for yourself only." Because at that point, I was really thinking, and I'll be honest, I was really thinking if I would affect my family. 4-day week, what was I going to do with two preteen boys on Mondays when I am in Dallas working? I leave my house, at 5:45 in the morning, don't get home until 6:30. What am I going to do with these two kids? My husband travels for work. So all those concerns came up to me. I wondered what was going to happen with our children that need our students, that need extra help, that are in special education, or that need the different levels of aid, and how we're going to meet their needs. But I said, okay, just breathe, calm down, and come back to who you are. And it's research. That's something I'm good at. And I dove deep into the research. I read, I knew what we were facing. I knew we were facing a recruitment and retention issue with our teachers. And let's face it, there is teacher shortage across the nation. This is not something that it's unique to Kennedale. I have teachers in my family, so this is something that I know firsthand. And I know Felicia can definitely agree. I put on my hat and I was like, okay, we're definitely not the only ones suffering from this. What things are being done? Because I did learn one long time ago, Mr. Jones, my history teacher, taught me that if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, but you don't change the variables, you're always going to get the same results. And I was like, all right, let's be open. Let's change this variable, but how do we change this variable to get better results? So I did. I read information on way more districts than I wanted all across the nation. And when I saw the writing on the wall, and I was like, all right, this is something that's going to have to happen. There's no way around it. It's just going to have to happen. I am not 100% happy with this. I don't really want this. But if we're going to do this, we have to set us as a district and our families for success. We were talking at the beginning, it was talking about, starting with the school year. And that's when I said, are we going to set us up for failure, or are we going to set us up for success? Why don't we do what I've seen some other districts have done, that they do a January start date? That way families can adjust, can get used to this idea, and we can all plan ahead, and the district can plan ahead so they can determine what needs need to be provided and taken care of for our student population. And there's when the childcare meeting happened, and for the Mondays and all of this. And that's what I proposed. And that's why this year we started on a 4-day start week on January. So some people might be happy with me, others might not. because I understand that it's a very divided opinion on it. But now, this year, when I saw the survey, calendar survey came through, I I even printed them and I was trying to like zoomed in and out and printed them larger and bigger, trying to figure out why this was happening. And I was like, why is this so strange when,
It's
we
strange.
were supposed to go for 4-day weeks so we could have some data so we can back it up. Let's see if this is working or not, because this came out in February. So this had like our 4-day weeks had just started. Why, as a mom, I was like, why are we asking this now? Why are we adding all these days? Like, what's going on? And I obviously had to ask because I was lost. And I came to I got the answer. So there was grant requirements that we depend on these grants to be able to serve some of our programs in the district, some of our students in special ed. And these specific grants, in order for us to get the funding, we have to meet not just the minutes the state requires us to meet to teach, but also the grants have tied in, they made some changes and they tie in some day requirements. So Dr. Vu, with her magic and calendar making, came up with these options. And I say her magic and calendar making because I have no idea how she does it.
Mm.
So
But she's Dr. Vu. She's amazing. So
she's,
yeah, yeah.
yes. And so I was like, okay. So I took the three options. I voted in the one as a mom I thought was the less harming for my family, the one that caused us less issues. And I am glad to say that fortunately my children are teenagers. They're old enough and responsible enough that and I work one Monday on, one Monday off. So we're able to kind of balance out the time that they're left home alone. I understand this is not the best for every family. And I voted on the one I chose at the minute. What does it mean for us going forward for the next school year with this convoluted calendar? For me, it means that it's printed on my refrigerator, that our family calendar has much more details on it so we can all keep track of what's going on and we know when we have to be in school.
Mhm.
So it takes something that was kind of routine, it's no longer going to be routine because it's constantly changing. And that affects my children in particular. They are routine children. They need that routine. And now it's being switched out for them. But as a mom, my job is to teach them that we have to adapt and that we have to be flexible. And sometimes things don't come the way we want them. I would have loved to see a full 4-day week calendar for the next school year, but that definitely would have put us with a longer school year, which I understand that it wouldn't have been the favorite of many families in the district. And I can definitely respect that. In my personal opinion, I wouldn't have minded a longer school calendar if we stuck to something, to one thing. So the precision in this transition is just non-negotiable. We have to commit to it. We have to find something. And we we have to get these transitions right. We cannot have these decisions being made in blind votes. We have to, I've said for the last 2 hours now, yeah, almost 2 hours. We have to be prepared. We cannot afford to have representatives that are opening board books when the meeting starts or the day of the meeting. We need to be ready. We need to be ready when 6 o'clock, 6:30 hits, whatever the time of the meeting is, that we've been ready. We're done. We're prepared for it. And we know what's happening. On being flexible enough to understand that things are going to change. As a mom, the 4-day week surprised me because my kids actually flourished on it. They have been able to spread out their workload in a much better way. We have better weekends. Our weekends are a little bit more relaxed. We have very busy weekends on the norm. In the fall, we have football, spring, we have football again. So we have Boy Scouts. So we have a lot of things going on. Plus we have church and family commitments, and we try to make time for our family. And that's something that this 4-day week has given us. It's given us the opportunity to have family time. It gives me the opportunity for those Mondays that I don't work. I get to spend that Monday off with my kids. I get to schedule doctor's appointments those days and get them where they need to be. But I get to also say, hey, kids, guess what? No appointments today. We're going to sit on the couch and watch TV all day. We can actually do nothing. And we use that time as well to be able to teach them more of what our family values are and things that kind of we teach by example throughout the week, but we can actually be more precise and more focused in teaching them. What's going to happen for next year? You know what? I think I'm just as blind as everybody is. And, but I adapt. I adapt. I'm flexible. I've already talked to my kids about the calendar for next year, how it's going to be changing, and how we have to be adaptable, and how we have to be fluent and be able to see what it is and not be rigid in our thinking, not be so black and white, and that we have to understand that sometimes there's things we just cannot control.
Yep.
And that's part of life, unfortunately. My
Excellent.
calendars at work change sometimes the day of. I've prepared all day, like for 2 days for a case. And then I show up that day at work and they're like, oh, by the way, that case fell through. So you're going to go cover this other case. And I'm like, oh, I have no idea what that other case is about. I don't have 5 minutes to get ready for it. So you got to be fluid and you got to be flexible. And I understand the struggles that our families have. I understand the struggles that our working families have because daycare is a big issue. It's a big expense. I had to pay daycare when we first moved here, and I was in shock by the sticker price to the point that it was cheaper for us to have my mother-in-law move temporarily to Texas
Hmm.
and pay for her for the rental of her apartment so she could help us take care of the kids than it was for us to pay for childcare.
Facts.
And it, having that, it was like, wow, we literally moved somebody temporarily to Texas and paid for an apartment and everything for her just so we could have that help. And then once the boys got older, she left, and now it's us four.
Sure.
And husband works, travels for work. I'm gone all day, and you know it. You try to reach me during the day, and it's like, yep, I'm unavailable during the day. And we have to be flexible and adapt. And we still have activities after school. And like, what do we do? When do my kids get time to be kids? When do they get that downtime? When do they get time to just sit and watch TV, watch their cartoons, watch their anime, watch what they want to do,
Yeah, they
watch
don't watch
their animal
cartoons.
documentaries.
YouTube. They
Oh,
watch.
we
They
do.
don't. Nobody watch cartoons anymore. It's YouTube.
Oh, we do at home. So, watch animal documentaries, which is something that they're into here. And what do we do? When do we have time for that? And when do we have time to be a family?
Yeah.
And how do we divide that time with our school time?
Yeah. There's definitely
So,
benefits and struggles with the program,
yeah,
and it's fresh. We're one of three districts I think that are even attempting this in state. So, but we'll see how it goes. But yeah, that schedule next year is kind of. I hope everybody gets Kegel texts all throughout the year to remind them that this is the Monday they go or the Monday they
yes.
not. And that's not a shot at you, Mike. You know I love you. Go ahead,
I
Felicia.
think
What's your
we need Kate to be able to send those texts to the whole
to
district,
everybody?
not just to the high school, please. Yes.
uh,
So I'm going to divert from the question, similar to what Ms. Cruz-Perez did, to
of course
say
you
that,
both would.
yes.
Go
So
ahead.
I'm going to speak as a trustee, and I'm going to speak as a mom and a community member and a taxpayer. Um, this is a decision that the board made. This is not, the 4-day week was a decision that the board made, and it was not a last minute decision. We talked about this casually before it became, before the research was being put together to make this decision. And the research that is out there is not conclusive that this is the best decision for children, which was what my position on it was from the beginning. How does this help student achievement? We're working to be an A district. How is this going to help us move along that path? We've had great MAP growth from the beginning of the school year. We were in school every day. I am hoping that that continues through this semester when they've been off on Mondays, but the data is going to tell when we take the end of the year MAP. Once again, celebrating small wins along the way might motivate the children to say, we've got this, we're good. Out campaigning and walking the neighborhoods, talking to parents, they want their children in school 5 days. Mm-hmm. And I've walked 300, 400 houses. I found one grandmother who is off on Mondays, and she loves it because she has the opportunity to be with her grandchildren on that Monday. Typically, we are presented with 3 calendars to vote on, and that is how the board makes its decision as to which calendar to accept. This year, we were presented with 1. I made my statement before I made my vote. This calendar, while I don't agree with it, is better than what we had because as an educator, I know that April is a heavy month. That is when the state sets STAR. Mm-hmm. So all the preparation and the last minute planning and making sure the strategies are there, you want your students to be in school every day to get that last final push because state accountability matters. You know, we don't want to always say star, 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 but when a district is an A, they puff their chest, come to our district. And I want us always to win. I want us to be as competitive as possible. I'm competitive and I want us to win. And I always want us to put in a competitive situation where we can outshine because we are good at what we do. We just have to make sure that we're better. So with the state requiring the number of days that we have to be in session, that is how the hybrid came to be. Is it the best? No. Is it the best as to what we were presented? Yes, we were presented 1. Can I work with it? Yes. Is it going to take planning? Yes. Her suggestion of putting it on the refrigerator so you know when your child is going to be in school, I don't think you should have to do that, but that is what I voted for and where we are.
I like the Kegel ideal, actually.
Yes, and the call outs and letting people know your child is in school today. This is the month your child is in school. And even talking to some seniors, students that are juniors now that are going to be seniors in the fall, they are like, they're 50-50. The ones that work and they're involved in robotics or other UIL activities, some of them like it because it gives them an opportunity to work on those projects. Yep. Some of them that have siblings that they are responsible for, they're not that much of a fan of it because their freedom in their eyes has been taken away. So I see it as this is what we have. Is it the best? No, things can always be better. But we have to take it and move forward with it, especially when there are requirements from the state. As far as a parent, both of my children have graduated Kennedale ISD. Very proud of them and their accomplishments. Even if they had this opportunity I would say no. And they're pretty good, but they were still teenagers.
Hmm.
And teenagers and preteens, individually they're great, but if sometimes they get with their friends and they think it's a great idea. We were talking to a dad whose bicycle was stole out of the front yard because they weren't in school. And it could happen at any time of the day. This is true, but it didn't. So he's like, "You need to stand down. We're we're doing the best we can with the information that we have." So I know it's out there in the community. I know I hear it, but we are always going to take what we have and move forward with the best decisions that we can make. So, as a board, I am supporting the decision that was made. Does it mean that we have to do, we're going to call them Kegel call outs? Yes. Does it mean that parents of all languages are going to have this information? Yes. Does it mean that the community is going to need to know and support when students are in school? On this day, you should not see anybody of this age out and about because they're supposed to be in school? Yes. It is a fluid situation, and this is what we're going to evaluate for the year coming up. Then we'll, at least we'll have 2 years of data to say this was a good idea or this was not. Um, as stated, as a parent, taxpayer, community member, if the data comes back and it says we're trending in the right direction, I'm fine with it.
It looks good
Student
so far.
engagement is where it is. If the data comes back and says we've dropped, then no, I'm not fine with it. Because I always want our students to have the best academic environment possible so they can make decisions. If they want to go to college, that's great. If they want to trade, that's great. Um, but you need to be able to make informed decisions, and your data is important.
Yeah, I know for me as a parent at least, the 4-day week was a surprise. I understand from a leadership point of view the why we would want to try that, and I think it's innovated, and I think we're trying it out. We'll see in a couple years how it is. We'll roll back if we don't have to. Like I get that approach. I'm also a parent who doesn't believe that it's the district's responsibility to watch my kids. That's Shannon and I made decisions and sacrifices early in life to make sure that I was home with the kids. And so this doesn't really affect us on that side of it either. I have a problem with the state coming in saying you're doing it wrong, and here do it this way. It's new. I get that part, but I think that was their way of putting their influence and trying to control something that's a little bit out of their control. Um, but I think, and I don't blame Dr. Vu and her advisory staff for this. I think next year is going to be confusing. I think you're going to have parents 1 month thinking that their kid's not going to school on Monday when they're supposed to be, and vice versa. They're going to show up to an empty school on Monday the following month. I do think that's a little bit convoluted, and I've already expressed this with President Glover as well after the vote. But we'll see. Like you said, we'll see moving forward. I know they're already addressed this, for the following year for you guys. I can tell you it's working. I think in general, I've talked to teachers. I have a good friend who just finished her certification for principal, and her number one choice was to come to Kennedale because of the 4-day week. And so I do think from that side, that approach of why we did this for staff side, I think that working very well, and I think the word's getting out. My just concern for next year, and again, we'll blame the state. We'll all blame the state on this because it is their fault. I do think that's a little weird, but I know moving forward that it'll Dr. G will address this for the following year. All right, wonderful conversation with
So
you, ladies.
I have a
Um,
question for Felicia with
sure.
the trustee hat on. So yes, with this, like when we talked about the 4-day week, it's like we obviously need data to see if this is working or not. Because like I mentioned earlier, you got to change the variables and see if it's working or not. You need to give things time to grow, right? Just like we do plants. But how do you think that we would be able to obtain some real data from this with this shift in the calendar for next year?
Good
Like,
question.
how can we able to say, okay, it worked, the 4-day week was working or it's not working with this weird, like with this different calendar, like how we were having 4-day, 5-day, 4-day, 5-day. How would we be able to use that data to say whether it's working or not, or whether it's something worth pursuing or not? And
Well,
I'm
I
really
glad you
asking
asked
like the
that question
trustee.
because data is I'm always immersed in it
And you're an
and
educator too.
in my hat as an educator and
Yeah.
then so as a school board trustee. So we get MAP data, and MAP is an assessment that students take 3 times a year.
Right.
They take it at the beginning to set a baseline. They take it at the middle of the year to see how they're growing, and then they take it at the end of the year. When they take the MAP at the beginning of the year, it sets a growth measure for them. And they need it, the measure is not whether or not you're on grade level. It is, are you growing with the instruction that you are receiving?
Right.
And then so you can look at it. And I always say, I want to know how the students did from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. I'm not necessarily, we get great reports, but I'm not necessarily looking to see what like third graders this year to third graders last year. I want to know when my child walks into the classroom in August, is he growing? That is a correlation with the data that we can use to determine growth, which is
So,
why I'm saying from the middle of the year this year to the end of the year, I'm going to be looking at that data. And I think that parents and the community can look
yes,
at that data. So then you look at the beginning of the year and the end of the year, and it's not star data because star is one snapshot of life. You could
Boo.
be having a great day, or you could not be having a great day. But the map is over time.
Yeah.
And once again, even if you're not on grade level, you are growing. So that would be a piece of data that we could use to say, this is working. Keep it. We're going if it's working, I don't have a problem. I'm with it. But if it's looking like, okay, and I don't mean like falling 5 points, that, it's a
that's
computerized
too
test.
short. Yeah.
5 points, that doesn't say anything. But if 50% of our students have dropped 30% on those assessments, I would be concerned with that.
Big time.
And I would look at that data and question. I'm not saying make a change right now, but we need to monitor this. And what action steps are we going to put in place to address potential? We don't know if it's going to happen, but at least have a plan in place for it.
But how would just having, and this is something that when we talked about this, when I said, hey, we need to do this for a period of time so we can have measurable data that we can compare, right? Not just a quick snapshot, which would be one semester. And then, many different variables for that. But how would we, so we do it for this semester, which I'm very much looking forward to seeing what my kids' map scores are going to be.
They're looking good so far. Maps look
Yes,
good.
they
And
are. They're looking very good.
yes, they are. And in my case, my kids are this, I call it the strange spot because, they've achieved like that high
That's
level.
the
So their
junior high,
growth
yeah.
always looks really, the growth shows is very slow.
Mhm.
But um, how can we translate this into next? So first year, first semester next year, when they take the beginning and then we look at the middle of the year results. And when we have this hybrid program in place, are we going to be able to test their 4-day week, or are we really just testing then a hybrid calendar?
Mm.
So, if I understand your question correctly, you're wanting to see data over time. And I
Right.
believe that is what I stated, that we will have 2 years
Yeah.
to evaluate that data because we put the calendar, basically, we kind of have two hybrid calendars because we really
What's
technically
hybrid
have
this year?
not done a 4-day for the for a year. We've
Yeah.
For a
done
year.
the first semester and then the second, we're doing something else. And then next year, we're doing something
Something else.
else.
Yeah.
But I will say, each year, the board has the opportunity to vote on the calendar. That is the procedure that's been put in place. So there was something out there that we're going to do this for 3 years. That was not the board decision. Each year, it was the board will stand each
Yeah,
year
the board
alone
has to vote each year.
decision on the
Yeah.
calendar. So to answer your question, we will use the data that we have and make, well, it'll be recommended to us because we don't,
Yeah.
that will come from Dr. G's cabinet and they'll present the data to us. And um, the community will always have the opportunity to ask questions. Board members will always have the opportunity to ask questions and get follow-up and clarity on what does this data look like? What does this data mean? And I can say that those reports that we get usually, you usually don't have a question from them because they are so
They're,
thorough in the
yes.
presentations that we receive, which is definitely an upgrade in that reporting process. So we'll have to see. The concern that I have with that is we're taking a chance on the students that we have sitting in front of us right now. But that's the data that we have. We're going to use it. That's part of being transparency. You lay everything out on the table and you make the best decisions from the information that you have.
And don't
Right.
forget,
And
Matt
like,
Matt follows our kids from pre-K or kindergarten,
yes.
wherever you start,
For kinder up
all
to,
seniors.
yes.
So in 10 years, we can look at the data
And the
overall and
data
see
across
the
time.
fluctuation from
Over time.
2020, from COVID shutdowns to us doing this as well.
And you can see, like, I don't know if you've actually looked at your kids throughout time. You can actually see like when they peaked.
Sure.
Mhm.
I
And
can see
then
that in
like they
schools
peaked
too.
there, yeah, when they peaked here, and then now their growth pattern it's actually looks slower, but it's not that it's slower, it's just that they reached, this high score at a certain age, and then
Yeah.
now their growth looks slower.
And I
Um,
always say that, God bless middle school because the kids go like this and then they hit middle school and they
Yeah.
go like this.
Yeah, it is a wave.
And then they hit high school and then they soar again.
Yeah,
So,
the awkward
it's
school
middle.
at that
it's
age
a trip,
is, yes,
it's a
it
trip
is.
to the highest roller coaster
Yeah, it
It
is.
is.
ever
So,
for 3 years. I will tell you that.
yeah. And
I
their
was
data
not
does the
ready for
same
middle
thing.
school.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think every parent says that.
Their data aligns with their emotions and who shows up,
Yeah,
which personality of a middle schooler is going to show up on that day. It's
true.
the same thing with STAR. You take a third grader, it's not a paper and pencil test anymore, it's online, and you want them to type. I know adults who don't know how to type, but they have to type these responses. Um, so, you have to look at the data over time,
Yeah.
and we
And the
have to
math's
make
the
the
best tool we
decisions
have
that
today,
we have.
hands
Yeah.
down. And it's cool because, like, again, I'm on advisory committee, so when it's presented to the committee, we see the whole school, but I also know my kids individually, and
Right.
so it's good to compare, and I can see definitely that there is something that we're at least onto, but it does take years and years of data to really, really evaluate that. All right. It's been fun, ladies. Let's do some conclusions and we'll sign out and get you to your days. Maria, why don't you start us off with your out conclusion?
Sure. Well, I want to thank you both for this conversation, and to our people in the district. Choosing a school board trustee is just much more than just selecting a name. It's choosing a standard of leadership for our children. And I believe I'm the people's choice for place 7. My commitment to the district is been documented in facts. It's not just words. My professional background as a translator and as a court interpreter, it's taught me that precision is the foundation of fairness. And through a Public Information Act request and a review of last year's evaluation records, we have seen the risks that come when that precision is missing. Preparation doesn't happen at the start of the meeting. I've said throughout the time in our conversation today, preparation starts days in advance. Records show a very concerning pattern of incumbent attending meetings without reviewing necessary data. We can see from the October 24, 2024 meeting and again in November 2024 that the board books were just not opened. And this was critical budget and tax rate session on August 26, 2025. Again, materials were not accessed until the meeting was scheduled to begin. This is things that bring concerns to me as a parent, to me as a taxpayer, to me as an individual in our community. And I'll say I'm always prepared because I respect our teachers, our taxpayers, and too much to do anything less than that. I respect those administrators that put all these hours and all this work to give these presentations to us. And when I'm reviewing the budget, as I mentioned, I'm not a finance guru, but I'm looking at the resources that not just my own sons, I want them to receive, but I'm looking at all of our students in the district. I'm looking not at our minorities, not our majorities. I'm not looking at any particular subgroup or anything in particular. I am looking at the 2,800 some students that we have, almost 3,000 students that we have in our district. And we deserve a trustee that's done that extra credit, that is there, shows up that first Thursday, ready to go 6:30 when that meeting's about to start. The gavel hits the table, and we are prepared and do it. If you have questions, you already have them set out. You're already prepared to engage in a conversation, to engage and make informed decisions and cast informed and educated votes. And lastly, I landed, like you, Jeff, personally know some of my story. I came to Canada in 2017. I was not looking to move from Puerto Rico. I landed here because of a hurricane, and Kennedale was the town for me to land in. I never expected for me to live here. This was supposed to be a stopping place before I moved out into the city, but it stole our heart really quickly. That I got here in November, and by that December, by that Christmas, by what I saw, what this community can bring, I knew that Kennedale was going to be home. I left for a little bit right before COVID, and I came running back. I came running back because of our district, because of our school, our community, and about to move, about to leave. We had made a pretty chunky deposit on a brand new house. We were leaving. It was going to cut my 1 hour commute to a half-hour commute. Much better. I didn't have to leave my house at the time I leave right now. But we took the loss. We took that financial loss because our kids wanted to stay here in the district. And I wanted to make sure that we were in that district that cares for its students, that is being led by people that truly, truly care. And I see it in Dr. G as I've gotten to know him throughout the years. I see an administrator that cares, cares about the outcomes of this district, that really cares about what's going to happen in the future, and that is very engaged about what's going on with this district. I'm asking for our community's vote, so I can return back to the board to work as part of our team of 8, and we can move the district back from a C rating back to an A, and together with prepared, ethical, and transparent leadership that our families deserve, we can do that. So thank you for this morning. It's been great, and I look forward for what's to happen on May 2nd.
Thank you, Maria. Felicia, final say?
Good afternoon now, or still good
Yeah.
morning, everyone from Kennedale ISD. I am Felicia Moody. I am your incumbent for place 7. I am committed to the families of Arlington and Kennedale, as we are 2 cities that serve 1 district, and I believe that we are stronger together. When we pool our resources, when we pool our talents, When we pull our ideas together, our students succeed. And I am committed to making sure that the success happens for them while they're in Kennedale ISD and as they graduate and matriculate throughout the rest of their life, if they go to college or if they decide to pursue a trade career. A school board member is a member of a team. Everyone comes with their own particular strengths, and they also come with their own particular challenges. My strengths happen to be in the fact that I love education. I love seeing students succeed. I love making sure that families might not have all the answers, but at least they know where to go get those answers. I am transparent. I will give you all of the information that I have and then challenge you to make your own decisions. I don't try to steer people in a direction one way or the other. I am accountable to myself and I am accountable to the board. If we say we want our students to grow, the questions that I ask are going to be questions targeting that particular area of growth. It's not going to be to a particular individual or to a particular program. I love football, but my goal as a school board member is to make sure that our athletes that participate in that activity are students first and they are succeeding in the classroom. Student achievement is where I live. Student achievement is what I am committed to. I have current data that supports that we are growing towards that goal of being an A district. We were recognized, we were a B. Our goal is to be an A, and making sure that we work together and share ideas to do that is what I am committed to. The person that you have in place 7 is someone who needs to be able to ask questions in a calm and decisive manner, seeking information that will help make the best decisions possible. That individual needs to be someone that is open and transparent, and that is the individual, me, that you already have in that place. I love what I do. I love being a Kennedale Wildcat. It is always a great day to be a Wildcat, but there are areas that we can improve upon. We can't hide our head in the sand with that. We have to be competitive. We have to be competitive with Arlington, Mansfield, Crowley, whatever other districts that are out there, and now the vouchers. I am a proponent of public school education, and I will always be a proponent of public school education. Certified teachers, principals, superintendents is where the community is going to get their biggest bang for the buck because they have gone through the system of education and they know the challenges that it takes to move our students from where they are to where they need to be. So I am seeking your vote for re-election. Felicia Moody, incumbent for Kennedale ISD School Board, one person with a voice for all, so we all work together and move our district forward. Thank you. Thank you for the coffee chat and the dialogue that we engaged in this morning, Ms. Perez and Mr. Navarez.
And thank you
Bruce
both for
Perez.
doing.
Bruce Perez. Yes, hyphen, sorry, Bruce Perez.
Thank you both for doing this with me, and welcome back to yearly elections, by the way, from y'all's little 3-year vacation from it. And just so the public knows that greater, and this includes South Arlington, there is one other person that's running. It's Darrell Owens. He's running unopposed. I have talked to him. We will have a coffee chat, just him and I. I'll just do it closer to the election. I wanted to make sure that the people who are running against some, each other had the chance to get their platform out. Obviously, Daryl has won. Congratulations to him. But him and I will have a similar conversation as well. We'll just put that out closer to May. And then if you guys haven't seen it before, Place 2 is already out. You can go check that out on our YouTube channel. And tomorrow I'll be doing Place 4 as well for the city council running elections. So keep an eye on for that. But in the meantime, thank you, ladies. I wish you guys both good luck. I know you guys are both approachable. You've always had great relationships with me, and I do appreciate that. And I appreciate the coffee chat. And there you have it, Kennedale. We'll see you out there. This is Jeff Navarez with the Kennedale News.
Yes, see you at the polls.